Hey there, Coach. Congratulations on a great draft. You've had a lot of life-changing phone calls that you've had the chance to make in the last 48 hours. Do any of them stick with you? And is everyone a little bit different? We got to watch some of the reactions from these guys, and you can see how much it means to them. You could hear the emotion in their voice. I just want to hear your perspective. What's it been like making these life-changing phone calls?
It is pretty cool. It really is because, again, like you said, it's an opportunity to impact a young man's future, and for some of them, it's the opportunity to fulfill a dream, and it's interesting because when I was interviewing some of these guys, I always ask them what's next. Because it's not just about fulfilling your dream; it's about now staying here. So hopefully they have a plan. But it's really cool. It really was. I think Sam was probably my favorite. Our social media team captured that very very well and tweeted it and I think it got to some people as well because the sincerity in which he was excited, the sincerity in which he talked to his family. One thing that I don't know if you guys caught on to, but I start talking to some of these guys and they get so caught up in the moment, they forget to tell their family that's on the line waiting to hear where their loved one's going to go play their football. So I tell them, hey, don't forget to tell them. Go ahead, you can tell them, and then they'll tell them, and it's pretty exciting to hear the family's reaction to it as well.
Do you ever get emotional too? I know you're pretty
Oh yeah,
calm, cool, and collected, but does it get you choked up as well? Because watching some of those videos, I
it
think it got
does.
some of us.
It does. The Cosme one really it got to me. I thought that was pretty cool. I really did. Last year it was kind of cool having Chase's father get on and having him be able to tell his son, congratulations. That was cool. So it does. It's kind of a neat experience.
Thanks so much. Congrats on a great draft.
Thank you.
Hi, Ron and Martin. This question is for both of you, but coming into this draft, were there certain things that you guys prioritized over others? And did you feel like you accomplished that with the group that you guys selected?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, when you come into it, you know what your needs are as a football team. And as I said before, what you hope is that that need matches up with the grade on the player when you're on the clock. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes there's another player who doesn't necessarily fit a need as much, but that player's talented enough where you don't feel you can pass that player up. So we came into it understanding some areas that we definitely wanted to address. We were able to address most of those areas. One thing to remember, and people forget this sometimes, is that it is April. Okay, so it's May actually. It's May, so we don't play a game until September. So there are some things that we still want to accomplish, and there's some goals that we still have as a personnel department and things that we plan to work on. And we will be ready and have a very solid roster by the time that the game started in the fall.
It's one of those things that as you go through it and you get yourself prepared for it, you feel very comfortable and confident with what, as Martin said, the work that's been done. And again, kudos to our scouting department for over a year of having to go through some extraordinary circumstances. This has not been easy with the COVID, but the reports that we got, the information we got, the work that was done to prepare us for this, kudos has to go to Martin, Marty, Eric, um, Gribbs, and Chris. Our guys that head up our department all did the job that we needed to have them do, and it was one of those things you feel very very comfortable about. You really don't know, as Martin said, until you start playing in September. So, but we're excited about the potential.
Just a quick follow up to that. You last year you found a lot of good talent in the latter rounds. Did anybody really stand out to you among the picks you had today? And how much tougher was it given the circumstances with scouting and COVID and everything?
I love the long snapper.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they all stand out, and they all were meaningful to us for different reasons. We had, as I said yesterday, we had conviction on these players. And as far as what Ron has started last year, as far as changing the culture here, we felt like this draft was going to be an important thing to continue that. So we really had to focus on the football character of these young men, as well as their physical talents.
I wouldn't say that there's one guy that really truly stood out as we went through this and that was so far above everybody else. I really do think that these are guys that we really do like, and we had good conviction, as Martin said, because when it's time to make a pick, if you're not convicted, then you're going to be hesitant. We weren't hesitant when we got to the time to make the decision. We felt pretty strong about everybody we chose, and I'm sitting here looking at the list, and today you just feel so good about John Bates, the tight end, and then Derek Forrest, at safety, and again, like I said, do like the long snapper. I mean, Cameron's got some personality. William Bradley King is a guy that's got some potential off the edge, as does Shakatoni. So these are guys that you feel really sharp about. And then Dax, is a guy that when you talk about a slot receiver, you start talking about Adam Humphrey. So we feel good about what we did. Again, we won't know until we start playing for real in September.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Hey, was there when you look at this overall class, do you feel like there's a theme maybe that resonates throughout when you look at them as a group? Anything that maybe that you were really looking for that they kind of each embody?
Well, again, and Martin mentioned it earlier in his last answer. Guys, it's about cultural fit and then football player fit. These guys, that was one of the big things that we believe that they all fit culturally. That was one of the questions that we try to make sure we asked every one of these candidates is that, hey, talk about culture. Understand that culture is very important to us, and love the answers. And then as we looked at them as football players, we said, okay, where does a guy like this fit? Where's a guy like that fit? That's important because, again, you don't want to try and force anything. And I know you guys are dying and waiting for me to say team speed, because that is a big part of it, because we want guys to play fast and understand that this is about us being an up-tempo football team.
I was waiting for the team speed, so thank you. But speaking of that speed, though, when you look at your offense, and I know there was a lot of talk about quarterback, which you didn't need to do, or you didn't feel like you need to do. But when you look at that offense, how different do you think it's going to look this year compared to the end of last year?
Well, I think, looking at the pieces we had in place already at tight end, we got a much more experienced Logan coming back. We got Antonio, who's really growing into his second season as a running back. J.D. McKissick, again, a very strong performance last year. Now he's another year into what we're doing. Terry now has some complementary outside speed with some of the guys that we have. Bringing Curtis into the mix. We found a guy that's a veteran slot receiver in Adam. So we put playmakers around. Then we went out and got a veteran experienced quarterback. In Fitz that we really think can really do a good job distributing the ball for us and has the arm strength to get that ball downfield. And then we felt like we've solidified the offensive line and some of the things that we've done. Defensively, we can be better. I really believe that. I love the stuff that Jack has worked on this offseason with his coaches in preparation to go forward in the 2021 season. So there's a lot of positives that are going to come out of free agency, the draft, and then the development of this football team, I believe.
Hey guys, question for either of you. Ron, you already talked about the long snapper, the trade back up into the 6th round. Was that a target that you need to go get? Did you see a run on long snappers coming?
Yeah, well, you know what? We felt like the opportunity presented itself to get some more draft picks. The long snapper was an important position for us, but the other guys on the board that we really liked then, and so we made that move. It's a pick for next year, but we felt like there were enough quality players left that we wanted to make a move and get some extra picks.
And then, Martin, I just wanted to ask a little bit more about Derek Forrest. He was quite impressive in his interview with us. How do you envision his role as a former DB, looking at what he can bring to the secondary?
Well, he is a very good football player, outstanding young man, very highly spoken of from his college. We see him initially starting out and having a critical role on special teams. He was one of Coach Kazier's top guys in the entire draft as far as special teams performance. So we really see that as a role for him. He has the opportunity to grow into a player that plays a role on defense for us. So he'll come in, He'll cut his teeth on special teams for some period of time, I would assume, and then he's going to start to have an opportunity to perform on defense for us.
Thank you.
You guys getting tired, huh? You guys getting tired? It's been 3 days, huh?
Trying to keep up with you.
Yeah.
I can just jump in. For either of you, you drafted a couple of defensive end back to back. What stood out about those players, and how much was getting more depth at that position important going into this draft or coming out of this draft?
Well, first of all, it's important for the competition. And as I said earlier, one of the hardest things that we struggle with is during free agency, trying to get a couple of guys to come be part of what we're trying to do because of the two guys we have. I mean, we've got two quality guys, so we felt we had to get the depth. So we went out and made the move that we did to ensure the opportunity. And lo and behold, two guys, young guys that we had slated for being available were there. And so we chose them and chose them back to back for that reason. We think both guys are explosive, dynamic young pass rushers that have room to go. We think both of them have some upside, and they're going to create some instant competition as we go forward.
And for both of you on this, and Martin just alluded to the idea that it's possible you could make some other additions going into training camp. Obviously, at this spot in particular, there's maybe not an obvious veteran piece behind Chase Young and Montez Sweat. Ryan Kerrigan is still a free agent. What are the thoughts about adding, if not bringing back him, some other type of veteran with that level, with a decent amount of experience, I guess?
Yeah, well, we drafted these guys with the idea that these guys have an opportunity to contribute this year. Obviously, we'll be evaluating that throughout the offseason, and we'll keep an eye out on free agents. And there'll be guys that are released after the draft. There'll be guys that are on the street now that come and work out for us. We'll probably have some tryout guys in our mini camps. So we definitely plan to continue to try to upgrade that position throughout the offseason. But we feel very confident at this point that both those guys have a great opportunity with us.
Hey guys, this is for either one of you, but Martin, you were saying on Thursday that, with the draft picks you have, you could rebuild fast if it all goes right. I'm just thinking, how does that translate, with this draft, the vision of this draft? How much better can you guys be because of the overall strength of this class? I know you won't know until they take the field, but projection-wise.
Yeah, well, I was just talking to our scouts about an hour ago, and I was saying to them, this is one of the best processes that I've been involved in my time here in the NFL. As far as start to finish, the way that our meetings went, the way that the guys were on top of their responsibilities and areas. The coaches did an outstanding job. So it's been a really, really good process. But at the end of the day, we don't know for sure how good these players are going to be for at least a year or two. So we feel great about where we are right now. We feel great about these guys' opportunities with us. But it's a process that takes some time to evaluate how good these guys can actually be on the football field. We feel great about all of them. Everybody in the league right now is feeling great, right? Everybody who just drafted thinks they had a great draft. And we'll find out in a year or two. But we know we got the right kind of people here. We know we got the right kind of players. We look for guys that like the process, that like to work, want to be great football players, and guys that love playing football. And all these guys fit that criteria. So they all, we believe, have the opportunity to reach their potential in this league. And we're going to do everything in our power to make that happen.
And then Ron, in the past, Nate Caxer has really loved Terry McLaurin on special teams, Antonio Gibson on special teams. They ended up not contributing to those units because of their play. I mean, any chance that could happen here with Derek Forrest?
Oh yeah, you never know. There's a lot of positive things that have been said about his play by his coaches. A lot of good things you can see on tape. So yeah, just because he's got great special teams potential doesn't mean we're not going to give him an opportunity to play safety for us. This is a young man that's a dynamic football player. You see some of his playmaking ability. So, everything's open for competition. There are very few guarantees in terms of who's starting. I can tell you that right now. But our intent is to create as much competition as possible that can help make us a better football team.
Yeah, let me just piggyback on that answer because I think that's a great problem to have. Certainly, we would love it if Derek Forrest came in and was a great player for us on defense. I wasn't trying to sell him short. We see what he can do on special teams, and as a young player, we think he starts off on special teams. But if he becomes a great player, if he becomes the next Terry McLaurin, that's a great problem to have. So all these guys will have an opportunity here. That's why we drafted them. There's an opportunity here for all these guys. And I'm excited about seeing how these guys work, how these guys develop. Can they take coaching, how well they take coaching, and how much better they get from start to finish. I'm really excited about the process.
Can't hear you, Sam. Not now.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, sorry. Hey guys, there's two schools of thought, I guess, in terms of picks. Some saying that later picks this year would be more valuable because without talented players might have fallen because of obviously the circumstances this year. Some saying that next year's later picks might be more valuable because it's deeper or there's more time and info available because it would be a normal season. Was your trade up into the 6th round, was that reflective of kind of your school of thought, or am I reading too much into that?
You're reading way too much into that because the truth of the matter is about what's about to happen, not what's going to happen a year from now. Where our focus really is trying to get ready for this coming season and trying to improve now as a football team. We don't look that far ahead. We try to make sure we're focusing in on the now.
And in general, when you guys think about later round picks, I wonder, I'm sure it's case to case basis, but in general, do you guys think, hey, maybe we have a higher ceiling guy that we could get here, or maybe a higher floor guy? Kind of, what is your philosophy on maybe those later round picks?
Yeah, I would say it's pretty much on a case by case basis. I mean, sometimes you'll go for a guy who may have had, doesn't have all the measurables that you might be looking for, but he had great production. Sometimes you go for a guy who has the measurables, who hasn't produced. There's a reason why these guys aren't going early. And each situation is a little bit different. But yeah, I mean, we certainly feel like all the guys that we took have an outstanding opportunity with us to make our team and to contribute to our football team. But I think every situation is a little bit different.
And I echo that sentiment because, we sit there and we do look at these guys and we do say, hey, this guy's a ready-made guy. He's a plug-and-play guy. But then when you do get later, you do say, okay, this is a little bit more of a developmental guy, and you kind of look at them all that way. But then all of a sudden you see a guy and somebody goes, this guy's going to be ready to play. I mean, this guy's, his floor is already way up here with some ceiling left to go. So, yeah, you have to look at them individually. And I agree with what Martin said. That's really what we did.
Thank you.
When it comes to John Bates, what made him stand out in this crop of tight ends?
Yeah, well, John's a guy who we feel like has an opportunity to develop into a really good blocking tight end. He shows some of the traits that we look for. He's got great initial quickness. He's got some power coming off the ball. He uses his hands really well. We think as a receiver, he's a good receiver, a functional tight end, functional receiving tight end type. He's got really good catch radius, good hands. Not the most explosive guy in terms of his downfield movement, but he does have good production in the pass game. So he was just well-rounded as a blocker and as a runner. And we felt like for our tight end group, he'd be a good guy to add to it.
Last,
when you guys talk about culture, are you also kind of when that kind of word of character? Is that kind of fit too? Is that sort of the same thing? And then also, how much of that is a determining factor over talent? Because obviously, the guys need to play, but how much do you consider that as well?
Oh, I think it's important from the very beginning, more so than anything else. I mean, that you don't want to ever put yourself in a position where you're going to, in my opinion, that you're going to take a guy that's got tremendous talent, but his character is always in question because eventually at some point you're going to have to answer to it. So it's important, and that's what I'm trying to get across to everybody, is that, we don't want to be in that position. We want to be in a position where you feel good about what you have. Sure, some people make mistakes and there's an occasional, but when it becomes a problem, then you've got to reassess, what your core values are. What culture have you truly created? That's I don't want to do that. I don't want to restart anywhere. I want to make sure we do it right from the beginning. So does it have an impact? Does it play into my mind? When I'm thinking about it, yes. I'm going to answer it that bluntly. Yes, it does.
Yeah, and let me just add to that. I have been fortunate enough to have the opportunity to go to and be a part of 2 Super Bowls, and both of those teams, the locker room and the culture of the organization and the team was outstanding. And that's what I know as far as having success in this league. So that's what I would like to try to build here. And I think, like I said before, I think Coach Rivera did a great job starting the change of the culture here last year. We want to continue that. A big piece of that, a big part of trying to continue that, is bringing in the right kind of players. And that's where our focus was in this draft and in free agency. We're going to get the locker room right, get the culture right. It starts there. When I've had success in this league, that has been right. And we want to make sure we get it right and keep it right.
Were there guys in this draft that either moved way up or moved way down for reasons like that? Is that for you guys?
Well, we had a board, and the players that we had up on the board, we felt were the right kind of guys for us.
I don't think Dave is on, so we can take 2 more.
Ron, what is your, can you mute that? What is your plan for a rookie development program?
For the most part, it's we're going to follow what we're going to be allowed to do with the league. Malcolm Blacken's going to head it up. We'll have a rookie mini camp in 2 weeks, and once we finish that, the players will they'll just work right into the rest of the program with the rest of their teammates. We'll have them here through the middle of June, and then they'll move on. In the meantime, we'll do all the program stuff that we're supposed to, with Malcolm leading that for the most part.
I had a question quickly for Martin, if you don't mind. Martin, you mentioned how seamless the process was in this experience. How much did it help that Ron had everything set in place for the most part, that he had been here with his staff for a year, so that when you and Marty come in and hit the ground running, you don't have to start from zero. You have a foundation to kind of build and then, improve on.
It was very helpful. It was very helpful having a staff that's established that knew the players on our roster currently. The other thing that was very helpful was having Marty Herney be an important part of it. He brought a lot of knowledge and experience to the table. Tim Gribble has been here with this scouting group for some period of time. That was a benefit. I brought some of my experience that I've had in the league as well. We put all those things together. And like I said, the process went very, very well. So I'm very excited to see these guys hit the field and start practicing and see how good these guys can be. But I felt great about the process from start to finish. And it was a collaborative effort from everybody. But it came together very nicely, as I said.
And one of the things too, to add to that, that we were fortunate that, we had the coaching staff have a year under their belt. Being able to put together the personnel office that we did, Marty were terrific in sitting down with Eric Stokes and then the guys under Eric and Tim Gribble and Chris Polian really, I think, give us a very veteran group of guys that all have their strengths. They all have a terrific voice. And that was one of the things that I thought was a huge plus, because when I was given, basically I get the top 100. And when I get that list from these guys, it's been raked over. I mean, these guys have already gone by to make sure that these are the guys that are going to fit what we do. So I didn't waste any of my time. I was able to get right to work, as was our coaches. It was all because of the work that was done previous. And let's don't forget how difficult this has been for those guys, because the school visits were limited. Then once we got past the school visits, then there was no combine. Then the pro workouts were limited. The opportunity to meet in person was limited. So these guys, did yeoman work to give us the opportunity to do what we feel that we did. But as I said, we're really not going to know until we start playing in September. But again, there's a huge appreciation for what was done by our personnel department, and you feel very strong and comfortable and confident in the work that they just did and the work they're going to do for us as we go forward.